Jams, jams, jams. Picture books and jams. Welcome, everybody, to PBJamz. Music and picture books, what a perfect sandwich. Squish them all together, what a yummy snack. PBJamz, yummy books and music. PBJamz, reading, writing, teaching. PBJamz, what a yummy treat. Jamming PBs all the time.
Good afternoon or evening or morning, maybe, whenever it is that you are joining us for this episode of PBJamz. I always love it when I get to invite friends back for a second visit on PBJamz, and that's the case with Karen Konnerth, who's joining us today. And today we're going to be talking about her book called The SNOWMAN WALTZ. And she wrote the words, the lyrics, and the music, which we'll talk about later. And Emily Nielsen did the illustrations. And this book was published by Sleeping Bear Press. And it is delightful, Karen. Thank you for being here and talking about it today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So good to have you back. I enjoyed our last conversation so much. And I was telling Karen before we came officially on air that I've been using this book this week in my music classes. Most of you know I teach K2 music. And when I can, I do the same lesson for all the grade levels. And this book has been working so beautifully, Karen, this week with my kids. They're really enjoying it. And I haven't done a really great job of introducing other time signatures. Like we really kind of hang out with the 4/4 time signature. And so this week we're, delving into this 3/4, and they have really caught on very, very well, and they're really enjoying it. In fact, one of my first graders said today, we'll talk more about this when we talk about the musical elements of the book, but I was we finished listening to, so we're doing there's a lovely read aloud on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a music teacher who has done a read aloud, and she does the music behind her. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so she does a
Oh,
great
okay,
job.
cool.
And so I've been using that because I really like how she integrates the music, throughout. So there's a little waltz bit, a little 3/4 introduction at the beginning, and then she
Oh,
actually plays your music
uh-huh.
during, and she sings the book as she's going, the singable parts. And so it's really lovely. So I've been using that with the kids. And so I finished with that today. And I was like, isn't that lovely? Did y'all enjoy that book? And they go, yeah. And one of my first grade boys, he goes, there was a lot of rhythm in that book.
Oh, wow. Good, good.
Yeah. And I
Uh-huh.
said, I know, right? I said, even with her words, you can feel you've done such a lovely job. And again, we'll talk more about that as we get to that section, but you did such a lovely job of the rhythm of the words that are really matching that 3/4 timing. And I think it's so helpful for kids to be able to get that, a little bit more unusual time signature from what they're used to hearing with the,
Mm.
steady 4/4. So anyway, we're going to dive right in. I'm getting way ahead of myself, but I'm just so excited because it's been so much fun working with your book this week. But to start off with, why don't you tell us a little bit about your inspiration for the book, how you got the idea, and just anything you want us to know about kind of the process of writing this book.
Okay. Well, first, I guess I should say that I'm a musician also. I played in bands, I played piano growing up, and so I'm familiar with a lot of different rhythms. So I guess that's important just as my background. Um, but then as a story writer, I wanted to come up with an idea that was a little different. There are lots of stories about we should get along and how to accept differences and things like that. And I somehow just this idea of rhythms being kind of the central culture of two different groups of characters came to me that I thought that would be fun to work with. And then also that, and I really, this is the only book I've written in rhyme. I don't usually write in rhyme, but this book just came to me that way. And I think it's interesting how when you're writing, you don't necessarily know exactly what's going to show up in your brain. And so writing this in the snowman's part, the snowman's waltz, because the snowman waltz and the penguins march. And that's the central conflict of the story, that they run into each other, and that's a problem that they have to resolve. The Snowman Waltz, well, one thing that was fun, whenever I was working on the lyrics or the text to the snowman part of the story, there was always a melody in my mind. And so this melody, I would just kind of be singing it to myself as I was writing down the words or working out my rhymes and things like that. And so finally I said, well, this seems to be going with it. And so finally I wrote it down in tablature. And then the penguins march. So they just have 1, 2, 3, 4 basic marching. And so any of the, in the book, the part that's about the penguins is in 4/4 time. So I was inspired to do it that way, because that way, not only are you talking about something, you know, rhythms and stuff, but the reader is feeling it.
Yes.
And it's an experiential learning process, that it's not just cerebral, but they're actually can feel it and move with the 3/4 or the 4/4, which is of course how children learn. Actually, for learning dancing, it's how anybody learns. Yeah, that's
Right.
essential to be able to feel the rhythm. And so that I think that is basically how the process came to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of the questions I had, was which came first, the story or the song. So they kind of came together, but maybe the story a little ahead of the song. Is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say the story a little ahead, because as I said, I don't usually write books in rhyme, but it just occurred to me, well, this would be a good way to have this to show it, so that the reader feels the rhythm, and not just it's not something they're just going to read about. It's something they're actually going to feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you had mentioned rhyme, and that was another. So the very next student after the one said, "Oh, and it's got rhyme too." I said, "Yes, it does. You're exactly right." I said, "And because, it's a song, because so it has the rhythm and it has the rhyme. And so she's written the music." So we were able to talk about that. So, I mean, we were tiptoeing all around when I was even really tiptoeing, but, let's dig in a little bit deeper to the musical aspect of this. So I love this concept that there's this rhythmic, it's kind of, I don't know, it's got some kind of West Side Story vibes with this whole, back and forth thing, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, without the romance, but kind of this musical, gang fight kind of a thing. But but yeah, we were talking about too the social emotional elements of it as well. And that was one thing, that I was pointing out to the kids, like when you have a problem, you have to find a solution. And so how did they solve their problem? And so, we talked about how, they taught them and they taught them, and then they had common ground, and then they had to take turns. They
Mhm.
still couldn't do both at the same time. They had to wait their turn. And, sometimes they would waltz and sometimes they would march, and they would have to, make a decision about which they were going to do. So for sure, the social emotional elements are definitely there and clear for students and teachers as well. But I do want to dig in a little bit more to that musical aspect. So we've talked a little bit about the two time signatures that are represented, and how that kind of facilitates that, really major conflict, which by the way, the illustrator did such a nice job with that, I thought.
Mhm.
Like that big page where, everything's topsy-turvy. Like, I love
Yes.
that
Uh,
page.
yes.
Yeah.
Another thing that I really love that she did, and that's the idea of when you, as a writer, you need to leave some space for
Yeah.
the illustrator, and the illustrator can find things in those spaces that were not in the text. And that's one thing that I really love. And now here's the page that we're talking about, when everything is, they're all
Yeah.
running into each other. And but what I really love that she came up with is that it's there's all along, you see in the beginning, there's a little snowman and a
And
little
the little
penguin.
penguin.
And it ends up, this is after the kerfuffle here, when they run into each other. And I always ask, I pause at this point and ask kids, well, what do you think they're saying to each other? And the kids
Yeah.
usually say something like, well, let's be friends, or something like that. And then I have them show that when they start, first they're marching together and then later they waltz together, that it's the two little ones that are leading all of the big ones. So I like the idea of the empowerment that a child can get from this, including their illustrations, that children can make decisions about what they're going to do that may not be the same as the adults, that they decide, and here's the little ones that decide, we're going to be friends, we're going to teach each other how to waltz and how to how to march, and the big ones follow along. And I really like that idea about independent thinking as well, that this adds to it.
Yeah, I love that leadership. And we've been talking about that too. Like, so when they realize that these two little guys, the little snow person and the little penguin, have kind of become friends, then that kind of motivates the grown-ups, to get behind it and say, okay, we got to figure this out, and they're
Yeah.
kind of the ones that do lead that idea. And that is a super sweet element that the illustrator. I also love the owls that
Yes.
really worked in. And my kids have noticed the owls. They go, "Oh, look, there's the owls again. We saw the owls. There's the owls." They're noticing those owls as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
those are super fun.
There's the owls.
Yeah. And
And
I
they're
don't
not
think
in
they're
the
like
story
on
at all.
every single page, right? But they do, like, they're observing, and so you'll see their eyes get big, and you'll see, and then at the end, the owls are, everything's peaceful, like the moon has, rested, like the moon's asleep and the owls are asleep, and everything is just nice and peaceful and even. And I thought that was a lovely way for the illustrator to show that the conflict had, been resolved,
Yeah.
and everybody was
Uh-huh.
on in a good place. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Really, really nice. So, okay, so digging into this musical bit, there's so much to talk about. So the 3/4 and 4/4 is there, and you also have this idea of waltz, which is new to most kids. It was new to my kids. I mean, they don't know anything about, they
Yeah.
just know the hottest street dances, but if it
Right,
comes to
right.
like, ballroom or whatever, they don't know anything about that. And so you've got this waltz element, you've got the 3/4 versus the 4/4. And then of course you have the social emotional element of working together, which is also a musical element within itself, like that whole teamwork thing. I mean, you have to be able to work as a team to be able to play music, whether it's just a duet or a trio or a big, ensemble. So even though that's not specifically musical, I do think it has musical applications for sure. So I guess I'm kind of getting into the next question, but I just want to make sure when kids or grown-ups, teachers, parents, when they read this book, what is it that you really want to make sure that they don't miss? Like, what is one thing that you really want to make sure that either the teacher points out to them, or that they notice, or that they for sure somehow get before they walk away from your book?
Well, one thing I think, well, is of course the conflict resolution theme, but also just as the story goes along, the idea that everybody can do this. Everybody can count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Everybody can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you want to move your feet, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, everybody can do that too. Because how many adults do you meet say, "Oh, I can't dance"? It's
Yeah.
like it's me, I love to dance, but I think the matter of feeling a rhythm that's really all it takes to be able to dance to music, which is just a wonderful way to enjoy music, is to move along with it. I mean, that's something that since the beginning of music, people have always wanted to move their bodies along with it. And that's great for children who are so ready to move their bodies and
Right.
they have a little structure for it. That's something they can learn. And that's another thing that you pointed out about just as far as getting along with one another and the SEL component of it. When I do the workshop with the children also, when they're doing the 1, 2, 3, 1, first, we just try to get a basic 1, 2, 3, move your feet, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, just like that. But
Yeah.
then once we kind of get that together, I say, well, if you want to, you could get fancy and try a little, go in a circle while you're doing that. And then if you want to, you can have a dance with a partner. You can hold hands and face each other. And it's okay if their 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 is not really going together. That's okay. They're still working on that. And I always emphasize to them that when you dance with a partner, your main job is to take care of your partner. Make sure your partner don't go too fast or too, and take care of your partner and make sure that they're having fun and you're having fun together. And so that's another part of the learning component. And that's different than marching. Marching is generally somebody's following somebody else. And but waltzing is generally a dance done with a partner. So I like that that element of possibility of something that can be done with this story also.
Yeah, I love that. I hadn't really thought about that particular aspect about how so marching is independent, but it is as a group still. So you have to
Uh-huh.
stay in time, but you're
Yes.
right, you don't have that personal connection that you would have when you're doing the waltz with somebody, and that you have to really look out for that other person. With the marching, you're more in tune with the group, but you're just responsible for you. But with the waltz, you are responsible for your partner as well. So that's a great point to share with kids. My kids really enjoyed trying out the waltz step at the end. So and you have the book there. Can you show that last page where the and I guess did Emily do that too? Did she create that last with the waltz
I,
steps?
with the feet, no, I mean, she put the penguin, but it was my idea to put that there.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I love it,
so
and I love it with the penguin feet. Yeah,
yeah, uh,
and it's so and I love how you've got the steps numbered too, so that they can see what they should be doing at the,
yes,
1, 2, 3,
uh-huh,
1, 2, 3.
yeah.
That's been really helpful. Yeah, I love that.
And
Yeah.
while we're on this page, there's the music is there also. So if someone plays piano, there's a simple version of the song written to play on piano, and the words are there too.
Yes, and that was wonderful, and my kids one of my girls was pointing out, I think maybe even one of my kindergarten girls, she was like, "Oh," because I was going through, and I was saying, "So remember we said there's 3 beats in every measure, in every bar of music, so here we can count 1, 2, 3, 1,
Oh,
2, 3, and here's a half note. Remember we said the half note's worth 2, so you have 1 plus 2, so do you still have 3 in that measure?" Yes, and then they said, "Oh,
oh, okay.
but there's no TTs, there's no eighth notes. We read them as TTs, right? We call them
Oh,
and TT. It
uh-huh,
just makes it a little easier for them to. They haven't quite figured out the whole counting exactly, but they can figure out, okay, this is time, this is TT. So a lot of music teachers for young kids, we use ta TT, and we'll use for a rest.
oh, okay.
Or a
Oh,
half note, it's like ta, so you hold out that an extra, beat. But so they were
uh-huh,
one of my girls was like, "Oh, there's no TTs." And I said, "Well, actually there are. Look down here in the bottom." So, I mean, we talked even about the grand staff versus the treble and the bass. I mean,
oh,
there's so
okay.
much. Yeah, there's so much. And I said, if you look down here, these are actually TTs, but they're just not together. So we
Uh-huh.
had even the opportunity to talk about an eight where they don't see them separately. Like I don't really introduce them. They're just used to the tied eighth notes, the barred eighth notes. And so it gave them a chance to see, oh, here's what they look like when they're not, with a partner, but
Oh,
they're still a
yeah.
T, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, so much. But they really enjoyed the little waltz steps. And with some of the classes, it just depends on the class. But
Uh-huh.
most of my classes, we tried the little waltz steps at the end, and I stood in front and I kind of modeled and I drew a little box step diagram on the board so they could kind of see how we're making a box. We step over and we close the box and we step down and we close, so we're just making this
Uh-huh.
box. And then I stood in front and I modeled and they were behind me. Sometimes they got really close to me because, they're doing these big, huge gigantic
Yes.
steps, right? But so they would get really close. I was like, oh, wait, I'm going to step on you, chick. Back, but
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And some of the classes were like, okay, wait, I need to do that again. Like they were really enjoying it and they wanted to
Yeah.
get it right, and they were like, I've almost got this. Can we do it one more time? And I was like, sure, so we went
Okay,
through it
good.
again. So they really, really enjoyed. And the one thing that I lacked, I think, in this lesson this week that I'm going to come back and follow up with next week is I really want them to see a full-fledged waltz, like really beautiful and sweeping across the floor, like
Yeah,
what it can, what it can look like. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I do want to put that, and there's actually I did find one. It's in the playlist for your book,
Oh,
and it
great.
yeah, it's My Snowman and Me by Sia. Do you know
Oh,
that
okay.
song?
No.
It's a popular, like, I heard a lot at Christmas time, but,
Yeah.
it's really a love song, but it's about my snowman and me, and there's a beautiful waltz, done by, I think, professionals to that piece of
Yeah.
music, and so I think I'm gonna pull that in next week so that they can really see, and I do, I wanna come back and follow this up with a few things that I think we could definitely I mean, I think you could teach a long time with this book, Karen, really, but I'm at least do another week with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I also, if I like to even talk to the children about writing out music. Like a lot of, if I'm working with kindergartners, they're just learning to read letters. I say, well, if you want to write down music, if you have this song in your head and you want to share it to somebody else, you can sing it to them. But if you're not in the same place with them, you have to write it down. And just telling them that you can write down music just the same as you can write down the letters to a word. And I bring a small dry erase board, and so I can say, okay, I'm going to write down a rhythm and then you're going to clap it. And so I'll just put little marks, for 1, 2, 3 and a space, and 1, 2, 3, and then for 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I tell them you can make up your own rhythms too. It doesn't, there are other rhythms too. It's a rhythm is something that's repeated. So you could do that. And then I talk to them a little bit about how the lines of the staff, that it means
Yeah.
the music is going up or going down, the pitch is going up and down. And so we try to, I work with that a little bit too. I don't have a musical instrument with me. Well, I bring just a little rhythm TikTok thing with me, but I don't have a tonal musical instrument with me. So I just sing, saying like going up and going down. And we talk about how you can write that down as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So much, so much, so much rich conversation that can happen around this book musically, social and emotional, and even the winter aspect and penguins. And I mean, like, if you wanted to delve into that, like, you certainly could, and for those people who actually get snow, which is not us probably, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't get any down there.
Hey, I'm in New Orleans. Nope.
Right, and we don't get much either. We Last week we had like, they were threatening, like, we got nothing but just a little bit of sleep that evening. It was like, oh man, but but if you actually got snow, like, you could really, delve into doing, a nice little snow unit. And I
Mhm.
mean, there's so much, you could get into the science of it, the penguins, where they live in the world.
Mhm.
I was not aware until this past summer. So you traveled to Ireland. Was it this past summer you went?
Yes.
Yeah. So while you were traveling in Ireland, my husband and my mother-in-law and I were traveling in Australia and New Zealand.
Oh.
And yeah, oh, it was such a great trip. But I was not aware that there were penguins there in Australia. And we
Mhm.
actually got to go to Phillip Island and see the little penguins. That was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. And that was another thing I thought, oh, you know what? I should talk to them about my penguin experience, while we're doing this book. So that was another thing. I was like, okay, I gotta have another week with this book at least. Because I really wanted to show them the pictures and some of the video of the penguins. And those ones, the little blue penguins in Australia, like, I mean, I always thought about, like, South Pole, and I know, like, Madagascar, I mean, but I didn't realize that their habitat really is a lot more varied than what we typically think.
Yeah, they don't all live in the cold. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right? And
Yeah.
these in Australia was so amazing because they said, they're in the water 85% of their life, but they can't mate and they can't molt in the water, so they come ashore. And so, like, every day at sunset, there are thousands of
Hmm.
penguins that come ashore. And, like, you're sitting there and you're watching the waves come and go, and you're just waiting. You're at this experience and you're just waiting for penguins, and the wave comes in And when it goes out, there's like 100 penguins just there,
Wow.
just there.
Oh,
I mean, the wave was there, and then it goes out, and they're just all standing there right together. It was the most
oh,
amazing thing.
oh, well, I have to get there too.
I highly recommend it. Highly, highly. It was so wonderful. But so, you could go into the science of that and the science of snow. So you could certainly branch out if you wanted to do, more of a multidisciplinary unit, on this book. You absolutely could, because you've got definitely the layers to do that. And I think that's something that beginning writers don't know to do. But
Yes.
the just all those layers that make it so rich for these kind of
Mhm.
conversations, and for classroom conversations, that there's so much that they can grab onto. And if they don't love this part of it, then here's this other part of it that they can really grasp and enjoy. And that just makes the book so good. It makes it good for rereads, you know
Mhm.
and for teachers to use in classrooms. And I think yours is very rich and lovely and very well layered.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I even made some little simple snowman puppets. It's actually just because my background for many decades is as a puppeteer, but I just made simple snowmen, paper snowmen about, I don't know, 6 inches tall, that I just cut out, just, 3 little balls on top of each other. But I mounted a one of the wide popsicle sticks, like a tongue depressor
Uh-huh.
type stick,
Yeah.
but I taped on the back, but it's taped so that it sticks out the bottom a little bit. So like if this, I should have had it with me, but if this is the snowman, I have it so it sticks out a little bit at the bottom. So if you move, and then it sticks out also a little more at the top. So it makes a handle at the top and a little thing at the bottom, so that
Right.
if you touch it, it taps. And so it makes a
Okay.
rhythm instrument, excuse me, so that children can play with them as puppets if they want to bring the story
Right.
to life. They can also hear them as the snowmen go tap, 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 and
Yeah.
the penguin march. So that's another possibility for a drama play to put.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that idea. And you could do the same thing with penguins, and then they could tap out their
Yes,
one, two,
you
three,
could.
four.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have them first. Yeah, for
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Great ideas. I love that. And I love the idea of having the sticks, sticking out enough that you can tap with those. That's fabulous. That brings a whole nother element of the musicality to it.
Yeah.
Um, Gosh, there's so much. Okay. So is there anything else about the music of it that you want to make sure we touch on before we leave that question?
Um, let's see. Well, I can just say that what was one thing that was fun for me. I have to make this available publicly, which I keep people say you should put it on YouTube, and I just haven't done, but I will do that. But I wrote the music, the melody to this and the chord chart. But then I thought I would really like this song available for the children to dance along with when I do a workshop. And so I have a friend of mine. My husband's a musician, but I wanted a piano player. My husband's a guitarist, but I wanted a piano player to play it because that's kind of how I wrote it. That's how I heard it in my head. And so
Right.
Les Martin is a wonderful jazz pianist who lives very near me. And so I asked him if he could just make a recording of it. And he did. And it's just beautiful what he did. And he said, okay, he asked me what I wanted. And he said, okay, I'm going to put in some snowflakes. And so there's some little parts where it goes diddly diddly. So I
Oh,
have the kids
nice.
move with their, when it's snowing. And I mean, but it's just the music, just the piano. It's really nice. So I will make that. I'll get that to you, Tony, so you can put that on your
Yeah.
on it as
Yeah,
well.
we'll put it in the link section. So you guys look for that. It'll be in the link section as an audio file. And then when Karen gets it uploaded to YouTube, if she ever does that, and then we'll add it into the YouTube playlist too. So we'll
Yeah.
get that in there. But at least you'll have access to it. So that'd be great. That sounds so lovely. That's one of the things that I did at the very beginning before we ever got into your book. Is there's actually a song and it's called Snowman Waltz. Um, and it's just an instrumental little waltz thing. And so I had them listen to that before we ever got, it has no words, but I had them listen to that, and we started just tapping the one, because I said, if you listen to music, you can always hear that one beat. I said it's stronger than any of the others. So first thing I want you to do is just to find that one, and we're just going to pat our lap on the one. That's all I want you to do. Then when I think you're ready, then we're going to start counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Mhm.
And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to sway. And so they're really getting the feel for
Nice.
that music. So we tapped the
Mhm.
one, and then we started counting, and then they started swaying. And so then by the time we got to your book and that lovely read aloud on YouTube, that other music teacher, I wish I remembered her name. I should have written it down, but you'll see it in the playlist.
Yeah.
But when we got to that, then they could hear that, oh, there's that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then they were primed and ready to hear that. So that was really good too. So there is actually, I'll have, and again, it's in the YouTube playlist that I've pulled as well. But that's a fun one to just kind of get kids primed and ready for that 3/4 sound.
Mhm.
Well, before we wrap up, I want to give you a chance, Karen, to talk about, what you're working on now, or anything you're excited about, or any events you have coming up, or if you have anything new in the pipeline, whatever you want us to know about what's happening now.
Okay. Well, I am doing school visits, so I do this workshop with this book, and which is a lot of fun. And I'm also, though, I applied to the Faye Kegler Book Festival, which is in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, at University of Mississippi in the spring. And my workshop was accepted there. And what I call the workshop is, what can you do with a book? And it's really what we've just been talking about, is all the different ways, all the different angles into the same book. So, and I have a really strong background in arts integration, using the arts, particularly puppetry, but other arts as well, to teach across the curriculum. And so I'm just putting all that together just to give people ideas to of how you can use one book to teach a lot of different things depending on the book. And it makes it really interesting for the children to approach it. It's not just a text, it's way more than that.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that I'll be doing coming up. Let's see. What I'm working on right now, excuse me, is a long-term project. I'm writing it's a historical fiction middle grade novel for that's inspired by something my grandmother told me, actually. So it's inspired by something from my family. It's fiction. It's historical fiction.
Right.
But I'm really excited about that. And I've been working on it for some time, but I'm probably about 3/4 of the way through of like many edits. So I've gotten
Right.
to the end, but I go back and do it again, do it again. So I'm really excited about that. So I did not know that I could write with that many words, because I'm used to picture
Right.
books like way under 500 words. So
Yeah.
this like over 30,000 words. So
Wow. Yeah.
uh, so I'm having a lot of fun with that. But then I have a whole bunch of picture book projects that I'm working on, that I have a lot of them that I have the text for, and I'm working on illustrating. So I love doing illustration with collage. I paint and texture paper, and sometimes add in other kinds of paper to combine them and make something a brand new look out of them. And so that's what I'm working on also. So I have several projects for picture books. Yeah.
Fantastic. So you guys keep your eyes open, because you will probably be seeing more from Karen coming up soon. Keep your eyes open for that. And also, she has graciously offered a giveaway. So if you would like to win your very own copy of the Snowman Waltz, which I do highly recommend, it is so lovely. Then all you have to do is leave a comment on the blog. So if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you head over to the blog. The link is in the description. So head over to the blog and leave a comment there. And let's see, this episode is going to be airing on January 23rd and 30th. So you need to get that comment in by February 5th in order to be eligible for the drawing. But you can always go back and watch this episode, or go back to the blog and get all the teaching ideas. All those are there. long term, like forever and ever and always, I hope. And I hope you do some of these things that we've talked about. There's so many fun things that you can do with this book. And if you do some of these things and you are so inclined, Karen would really appreciate it if you would leave reviews. There's three really good places: Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and Goodreads. So if you could leave reviews there, that would be really helpful to her. You can also request it at your library.
Mhm.
Go get yourself a copy or buy a copy for your music teacher. I'm telling you, your music teacher is going to love this book. So if you're not a music teacher, but you have kids who do have a music teacher, this would make a great, I mean, I know we're past Christmas, but this would make a great teacher appreciation gift, or if their birthday's coming up or whatever. So get a copy for your local music teacher, for the kids in your life. Everybody's going to love this book. So just get you a few copies and share them out, and use them in your classrooms if you are a teacher. Even if you're not a music teacher, like Karen said, there's so much else that you can do with this: science, reading, literacy, um, other arts, puppetry and drama and art itself. So many fun things you could do with this. So much fun. So check it out. Leave a comment on the blog to be eligible for the drawing. And Karen, thank you so much. It's been another delightful conversation with you.
Oh, thank you, Tony. I so appreciate what you do. It's so wonderful that you have this platform to reach out to teachers, to give them ideas for things to bring their classroom, to just bring exciting things into their classroom, which I
Yeah.
really appreciate you do. Thank you.
Absolutely. This is a passion project of mine. And we're getting ready to do our third anniversary. How crazy is that? PBJamz is
Oh,
almost 3 years old. And so we've been,
congratulations.
yeah, thanks. So we've been doing this for a while, and I absolutely love it. And I often say it brings together so many of the things that I love: teaching and writing and reading and music, and I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. That's going to make any classroom a nicer place to be, when you
Mhm.
can bring all
Yeah.
those things together, for sure,
Mhm.
no matter what you're teaching. Um, so thank you again. Thank you guys that are watching for tuning in for another episode. We hope you've enjoyed it and gotten some great ideas, either for writing your next book or for integrating this into your classroom, or sharing it with your kids and your family, or at your daycare center, or wherever you happen to find yourself. So we will see you next time on PB Jams. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Dancing, PB Jams, yummy books and music, PB Jams.